Hi everybody, welcome to Q&A with Coach Rebecca. I am Coach Rebecca Smith. I'm the founder and director of Complete Performance Coaching. We are a group of high performance experts who specialize in working with young athletes on things like overcoming fear, building confidence, and basically unlocking peak performance potential. So we do this in two different ways, through one-on-one coaching with myself or with any of the other fabulous Complete Performance Coaching coaches. Or if you're more virtually inclined, we have a whole online membership-based complete training facility for your mind at performhappy.com. And that is this really exciting community full of people, sport parents, athletes, and tons of self-support training. So you can get you can work through your fear, you can get through sport anxiety, you can learn to trust yourself, you can become more mentally tough, all through specialized training that's in bite-sized pieces that you can do in the car, on the way to practice, on the way home, Sunday afternoon. It's really flexible because I know the life of a sport family is wild and crazy. So today I'm going to answer a couple questions from members of the Perform Happy community. Both of these are gymnasts. And I know I talk a lot about gymnasts, but don't worry if your athlete is not a gymnast. Don't be afraid. You can learn from this too. And what we're going to specifically be addressing is what I'm calling the what ifs. And just think to yourself, whether you're a kid or a parent or a coach, how often do you get stuck in the what if? And then this whole big story starts to build in your mind because you're like, well, what if this happens? And if that happened, then this could go wrong. And oh my gosh, this might be awful. And I don't even want to deal. I just want to go climb under the covers. And that's like, honestly, the biggest thing that we as humans can get better at is just letting go of what ifs and finding what is real, what is actually on our plate in this moment. And then walk one foot at a time into whatever feels scary. And you'll probably notice that it won't kill you. It wasn't that hard. And you'd probably want to do it again. I think about my husband, who never wants to go to a party. He never wants to do anything social, which if you met him, you'd be baffled because he's like the most socially capable guy you've ever met. He's so charming and wonderful, but he's like, I don't know those people, or I know those people too well, or whatever. He's like, I don't want to go. And then every time he goes, he's like, wow, that was a really great time. I'm so glad we went. It was so nice to see so-and-so. And so if you're in that, that what if, it's never going to make your experience better. It's better just to go, okay, let's try it out and see what happens, which is easier said than done when you have a particularly fearful child. But so I'll get to the first question here. It comes from Katie, and she just joined the Perform Happy community and started watching the Overcoming Fear course. And she said my daughter and I just watched the first two videos of session 1. She became so tearful at times and gave me a lot of what ifs. I tried to support her and say, let's focus on what you can do and not all of the what ifs. One thing I heard was, what if my coach makes me? I have to listen to her because I don't want to say no and then I won't be able to do it. She was talking about back walkovers on beam and how her coach wants her to start with her leg up. She's only 8 and sometimes has a hard time communicating with her coaches. So I've heard this a lot, actually. As soon as people hear my personal story, they like tear up because they know it's exactly what happened for them. And the first time that I could relate to somebody on that same level with my fear, I teared up too and was like, oh my gosh, okay, it's real. I have to deal with it because it's here in front of me. I'm hearing examples of other people going through it, and it's a lot to take in. And then she also had this fear of talking to her coach. And the fact that an 8-year-old could immediately touch on that was what was, scary for her while she was watching the videos, that is huge. That means that there's like a big chance for her to get this, because that, especially for kids, 7, 8, 9, 10, it can be very difficult. The idea of going to your coach and saying, I don't think I can do what you just asked me to do. May I have an alternate option? Okay, and now the way that I train kids to get through fear and mental blocks is not to avoid. Don't get me wrong. It is not about, I can't do it, I'm not doing it. Like, believe me, we want you walking into your fear bit by bit, but coaches don't understand the speed that works the way that we in the community understand, because we've watched hundreds of kids walk through this fear. So we get that if you are not feeling right, and there's a difference between feeling nervous but okay and feeling terrified and you know you're not going to go for something. So if you know, I am not going to try that back walk over on the beam with my leg up, my brain won't let me. Every time I start to go back, I feel like I'm going to hit a brick wall. This is not going to work. You know, an 8-year-old can identify the difference between those two feelings, the like butterfly nerves in your tummy, that like, ooh, this is going to be a challenge, or this is not going to work. This is going to actually make my confidence lower by trying this, you know, whatever this drill is that I'm being asked to do. And what we're asking those 8-year-olds to do is to say, excuse me, coach, I would really like to be able to do that, but I don't feel comfortable in this moment, or I don't feel confident enough to try that yet. Would it be okay to get a spot? Or would it be okay to start with my leg down? Or would it be okay to do it with my leg up, but on a different beam? And so that's what I'd recommend mom, is you come up with a line, you know, something that she can even practice with you. That's, excuse me, coach, I'm not feeling confident enough to try that right now. Could we try this instead? And that in itself may be scarier than the back walkover for this little girl. But if she can do that, even if she's willing to try to speak up maybe 1 out of 5 chances, let's say that in a given practice, her coach is asking her to do 5 things that she does not feel safe to do. If she can speak up once, that could be the goal for the week. And then maybe if she can speak up twice, that's the goal for next week. So I'm always talking about baby steps. And when it comes to communication, it's the same thing. That's just as terrifying. So if you can say, all right, out of 20 chances to speak up, let's just pick 1 to take. And, you know, maybe at some point today, just to say, excuse me, coach, I don't feel confident enough to try that yet, but I think I could do it with a spot. Could I have a couple of spots? And then if coach says no, well, then we're back in the same boat. And so that's something that I think would require a conversation with the coach. And some coaches are not very welcoming and warm to the idea of kids giving them suggestions. I'm guessing with 8-year-olds, it's probably a little bit more acceptable than, you know, if you're 15 and you're trying to tell your coach, like, but then at the same time, you're going to be more confident to be able to talk to them. So in that case, if you have a coach that's really not being very helpful, not being very flexible, it might be good to actually have mom reach out to the coach. And this is with a younger kid. If anyone's over 10, this is definitely a talk for the kid to have with the coach themselves. But anybody under, it might be so intimidating that you might as well just like bring the family in, talk to the coach and say, hey coach, we're working with Coach Rebecca. Here's what she recommends. Would it be okay if we tried this for a week or so? That if she doesn't feel comfortable, she'll tell you, and then you let her take the lead a little bit. And ideally, the coach has the same goals as you. The coach wants her to be successful. The coach wants her to feel safe and build confidence. So if you can say, hey coach, I think we have a way. And then everybody comes together, you can try it out and see what happens. Usually it'll be like 2-3 weeks of, you know, coach and kid kind of not having the same agenda and having to work that out. But as long as she's willing to start speaking up, she will get through it. And she's not alone. That is almost always the reason why younger kids get mental blocks, is because they can't speak up and say, I don't feel safe right now. Even though, you know, it's a safe skill. If you don't feel safe, you must say something so that you can not get your brain all spazzed out about this is not safe. And then next thing you know, it's been 6 months and you haven't tumbled. So it's worth it. So hopefully you can encourage her to speak up. If it's going to be very difficult, bring the coach in, have a meeting, talk it out, come up with a plan together as a trio or a quad of parents, athlete, and coach, and go from there. Okay, so now next question comes from Jamie. And she said her daughter was on a huge roll, getting new skills, overcoming fear, had like 4 consecutive days of new skills. She's a little bit farther into the program than the previous girl we were talking about. And then she hurt her hand. She had some kind of a arm or hand injury. And so she couldn't do either of the two skills that she's been working so hard at regaining confidence on. So mom was like, great, she's on a roll. She's getting new skills, even though her hand is hurt. She's learning new things. She's modifying. She's working around it. What if it comes back? And so here's how she wrote it. Yeah, my daughter was on a huge roll of new skills. Then she injured herself. Now she's showing fear of going back to her skills that she had been trying to overcome the fear of before the injury. Injury was the hand/wrist, so she hasn't been able to do the two skills she's afraid of. I was hoping the new skill role would give her confidence to move forward with her fears, but now I'm afraid she's going to avoid them altogether with a new fear of not having done them over a week. How does she keep her current confidence and relaxation and go right back to working what she's afraid of? Okay, so a couple things there. The first thing I want to notice is there's a little bit of what if coming from mom, right? What if she's scared again? Okay, she's seeing it, but she's like, what if this is the end? Oh my gosh. And then the kid is like, what if I can't because my wrist was hurt because I haven't done it for a week? So we don't know until we try, right? So why don't we just go ahead and assume it'll be fine? You know, like my little 8-year-old, let's assume the coach is going to be like, no problem, hon. I'll give you a spot. Great. Assume that. Why not, right? Because if we don't know the future, we're really technically making up stories in our mind anyway. The story we typically make up as humans is like, it's going to be awful. So why don't we just go, it's going to be great. I'm going to get back on that hand and keep cruising forward. And then if it's not that way, which is totally normal, that after you have a setback, if you're tired, if you hurt yourself, if you go on vacation, if you have a bad day at school, like any of those things can totally set you up to have a less confident week. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or that it's not solvable. So you go in realistically and you go, all right, brain, let's see where we're at today. And you go and you start at something a little easier than you probably need to, just in case, because it's always good to get started off feeling confident and then moving from there instead of like, oh no, I was doing this last week and now this feels scary. Just start back a step, try it out. And the best way to communicate with your brain is just to follow the 2-balk rule. If you balk twice, meaning you freeze up or you don't go for it, then your brain is sending you a clear message, I don't feel ready yet, so I need it to be a little easier. And it doesn't mean like you are like, it's over, the fear is back, everything's out the window. It just means you need to back it up a step and build confidence. And you might assume that you go in that week, you need to build confidence. And so you start back easy, basics. And oh, I'm doing great on the basics. Okay, cool. Now let's make it really easy with lots of mats and spots. Well, that's going well. Awesome. Let's take it up a notch. Instead of starting where you left off and then being disappointed if it's not so easy to get back into it. Okay, so the 2 points I want you guys to get is, don't assume it's going to be awful. What if it goes well? You know, what if it was great? What if she got back up and it was, you know, amazing and her confidence came right back? And if it doesn't, then you focus on the controllables. And I was thinking about my Grandpa Jack, wise old Grandpa Jack, who used to say, the secret to life, he told me this when I was like 8 years old. He said, Rebecca, the secret to life is don't worry about anything you don't have control over. And that, I mean, it really is. It's the secret to fear. It's a secret to confidence. It's a secret to feeling happier in general, is that if you don't have control over it, then don't worry about it. There's nothing you can do, right? So if you don't have control of how your coaches will react, we try to let go of that. If you don't have control over the fact you got injured, well, we can't really worry about that. What can you do? You know, you can get up there, you can check in with your intuition, with your brain, with your mind, and go, okay, what feels good today? Well, not that, okay? Let's try something else. What else can you control? The way you talk to your coaches, the way that you manage your thinking. If you notice that you're in this what if zone, pull it back to what is. Okay, what is? I hurt my wrist, now I'm back, let's see what happens. You know, what is? I don't feel safe to try this. My heart is pounding because I'm nervous to talk to my coach, but I know that the thing I need to do in this moment is say, excuse me, coach, can I please have a spot? If my coach refuses to spot me, here's how I will respond. And if you get a plan in place to control what you can, and then you're just ready to let go of the rest, the journey will be a lot more palatable. All right, everybody, thank you for joining me. And for those of you members, of course, you can find me in the Ask Rebecca forum anytime. Send me those questions and I'll respond to them as they come in. And I'll be back again next week to answer some questions live. See you soon.